Okay. You can use an HTML document to create your web page. Okay, so let's look at the structure of an HTML document. Yeah, I think maybe it's your network. Okay, so an HTML document has a particular structure. Okay, you can't just create your HTML document and you just start typing on it. Fine, it will display on your web browser, but there are some structures that you need to follow when creating your HTML document. Okay, and this, before I forget, HTML, you might be thinking, what's the meaning of HTML? HTML means hypertext markup language. Hypertext markup language. It's a markup language that you can use to create the structure of your website. Okay, because I know some of you might be wondering why I'm saving this file as .html. Why didn't I use maybe .txt? Or if you are familiar with Microsoft Word, you might be thinking, why didn't I use .dox or .doc? Okay, so this is the file format or the file extension for HTML file. Use .html. Okay, so, and I said HTML means hypertext markup language, and it is a language that we use to create the structure of our website. So, for instance, after creating your project files, okay, you can come to the file and type something. Let's say this is you can type something on the file, and when you go to the project folder, remember we created this project folder in our desktop, and this is the project folder. I don't know if my icons are too small. Okay, this is the project folder. And when you open the project folder, you see the different files that we've created using our code editor. You can see all these 3 files now that we have created. You can see that they are in the project folder. And on this file here, let me just take this. Let's use this file. On this file here, you see that I've added some content to it. And I said, this is our first class. Okay. So if I'm to open this file now, is anyone on this? So if I'm to open this file here called class, you see that it will open on our web browser and is displaying the text or the content that we have in this file. You can see it here. This is our first class. And you can see it on the web browser now that is displaying the content that we have in that file. But this is not the ideal way if you are creating your HTML document. This is not the ideal way to display text or to add content to your HTML document, okay? Your HTML document has a structure that it follows, okay? Your HTML document has a structure that it follows. I'm just using this as an example to show you that whenever you type something on your HTML document, you can easily preview that thing on your web browser, even without following the HTML structure, okay? But it is ideal that when you are creating your HTML document, you just take note that there's a particular structure that you need to follow, okay? So let's take a look at that structure right now. So the structure you need to follow is, firstly, you have to declare the document type, okay? And you do that using this less than sign, okay? Less than, then followed by this exclamation mark, doc type, HTML, okay? Okay. So firstly, you declare the document type. After declaring the document type, you need to add this HTML tag. You add the HTML tag. The HTML tag, immediately you've added the HTML tag, you also need to close the HTML tag. Okay. What this does is that it shows you the beginning of the HTML content. So whatever you type in between this opening tag and this closing tag will be your HTML code. Okay. And this is how you create your HTML opening tag and the closing tag. You can see the difference. The opening tag does not have a forward slash to attach to it, but the closing tag adds a forward slash attached to it. Okay. So after opening your HTML, what you need to add next is your head. Okay. You add the head, or rather the head tag, followed by the body tag. So this is the basic structure of an HTML document. Okay. This is the basic structure of an HTML document. Like I said, firstly, you declare the document type. You declare the document type by saying writing the less than followed by your exclamation doc type HTML. Okay. Then you open your HTML by using the HTML opening tag and the closing tag. Then in between the HTML opening tag and the closing tag, you add the head element there and also the body tag as well. Okay. So basically, this is the basic structure of your HTML document. So you will notice now that if I should, just like the way we did the last time, if I should, let's say I add some text here, and we save it. Remember, after editing your document, regardless of the type of document you are working on, after editing, you have to save it first before you be able to preview that particular change you've made. Okay. So for instance, now I've added this text to it. So let's go to our web browser and see. Okay, Mr. Omorugbe, you can proceed if you have a question.
All right. The question I wanted to ask, when it comes to the doc type, is HTML the only doc type, or we have other doc type? Then, if we have other doc type, when do we use the other doc type?
Okay. If you are creating an HTML document, you have to use this doc type. Though it's optional because, like I was explaining just now, if, for instance, you didn't add these HTML elements or tags rather, your document is still going to preview, it's still going to display on your web page. Okay. But if you are following a particular structure when creating, which is the required structure when creating your HTML document, you have to add your doc type to the heading, to the first, which is at the first tag you add to your HTML document. Okay.
And what I'm asking is HTML, when we are declaring doc type, is HTML the only doc type, or there are others? So that's basically what I want to, so that we have options if we are, or if there's no options, that we'll know exactly what we are doing.
Yes, HTML is the only doc type used when creating your HTML document. Because what this is doing now is telling the browser that this document type is HTML document.
All right, thank you.
Okay. So right now we've created the structure of our HTML document. You can see if you add some text here, it's also going to display on the browser. But like I was saying, that let me just expand this window. Like I was saying, is that when you are creating your HTML document, you need to follow the recommended structure. Okay, don't just feel like when you, for instance, if you should type something on the document and you preview it on your browser that is showing, that does not mean that that's the right way to do it. Okay, so the right way to add your content, what you want to display on the web page, if you want to add it and display it on the web page, you need to add it inside your body tag. Okay, for instance, this our text, we have to take it from the head and place it inside our body tag. Okay, then when you refresh the page, you see that it's also going to display. Let me remove this. Let's see. You can see it now. That is also going to display. But I'll tell you that this is not the only way to add or to display your content on your web browser. Okay, because what we are currently focusing on now is the structure of every HTML document. On our HTML document, if you are familiar with using the Word software, that's Microsoft Word, you will note that there are different type of text or element that you can add on your Microsoft Word. For instance, if you want to make some text big while some are small, there are different ways you can do that. Same with HTML. There are also different ways you can display your text, how you want it to look on the web page. Okay, so we have headings, and we have paragraphs. We have headings and we have paragraphs. So when you want to make a text very big, or you want to display like a title, okay, which is an heading, you use the heading tag. Then when you want to display paragraph, you use the paragraph tag. Okay, so that's the right way to add your content or to display your content on the web page. Okay, so far, if there's any question, or if you feel there's any area you are not clear with currently, you can just let me know before we proceed. If you have questions, you can also ask me.
Like if what will be in the middle there?
Yes.
You can fit it between the body and
Yes. That's just an good afternoon. So I work at it wasn't
voice cutting.
catching. Okay, I'm Stephen.
So you still be like to use the inside.
Yes.
I mean, if the head of the like the
Yes.
page,
Yeah.
then but then apart from the body, so paragraph and
Yes.
what of the body?
This one?
What of the body?
This body is also a tag. Okay. Okay. Okay, we'll get to that. We'll get to the paragraph tag. I'll show you how the paragraph tag looks like, and also how the heading tag looks like. Okay. So, are we all clear now with the structure of our HTML document? How we structure our HTML document? Do you understand the structure of the HTML document? Okay. So let me just recap. Like what we are talking about, we are talking about the structure of an HTML document. Okay. So I said, when you are creating an HTML document, firstly, you need to specify the document type. That's why we did this first one here. That's the doc type, is HTML. So after that, we open our HTML tag and also we close our HTML tag, followed by the head tag and the body tag. Okay. So our content now, the content we want to display on the web page will be inside the body tag, because the web page now is the body of our website or whatever we are building. Okay, that head tag, we also use the head tag, but it has other function. Okay, so that's what we're talking about. Okay, right now, let me quickly give you some examples. Like I was saying, we have the heading tags, okay, and also we have the paragraph tag. Like I said, for instance, if you are writing, let's say, a letter, there are some sections of your letters that is going to be the heading or the title. You don't want to give that part the paragraph attribute, okay, or the paragraph. You don't want to use the paragraph tag to display such content, okay. Though you can display it, but following the HTML structure or the right way of doing things, you need to use the heading tag to display such content, okay. So let's go back. Firstly, let's use the different heading tags that we have. For instance, let's say we want to write this is the heading, okay. You can see that is displaying on the page. For you to add an heading tag to your HTML document, you use the H1, okay, the H1 tag. H1 tag stands for heading 1. That H there stands for heading, okay? So use H1. So if I should add this same text now inside our heading tag, which is our H1, you see the difference on the web page. Can you see the difference right now? You see that this text is different from this one because this one is a heading, while this one is just a text that we added without any tag attached to it. Okay, so this is an H1 tag. We also have different heading tags. We have the H1, H2 up to H6. Okay, you will see their difference now. Let's say this is H2. And then 2. And 6. Let's reload. You can see the different headings that we have. This is H2, H2, H4, and 6. You can see all the headings that we have here on the web page. We have heading 1, heading 2, heading 3, heading 4, 5, and 6. Okay, these are the different headings that we have in our HTML. Okay, so like I said, the headings, if you are writing or if you want to create a web page, your page might have different sections. Okay, so you can use this heading for each sections. Okay, so instead of using a paragraph now, let's say you are writing, let me just use a letter as an example. If you are writing a letter, the main title of your letter is going to be like an heading, okay? And you don't want that title to be just like the body of your letter or the paragraphs of your letter. You want that heading to be kind of highlighted, okay? That's the function of this heading. It's used to identify different sections of your website, Okay, so if you are creating a website and let's say you have a particular section that you want a title to be on that section, you can use the heading tag to display such title. So is that clear? So let me know if that explanation is clear. You can use the chat emoji. Okay, okay. So remember, when creating your tags has an opening and also it has a closing. Okay, your tag has an opening and also it has a closing. Though there are some self-closing tags, but your H1, your paragraph, and also like your body and your head tag and the HTML tag, these tags have their opening and also they have their closing. Okay, how do you know that this tag has the opening and the closing? If you look at this H1, for example, this is the opening tag. The opening tag is just like the beginning of that particular tag. Okay. Then why this one here with a slash is the closing tag. Okay. So the content that you write between the opening tag and the closing tag is your HTML content. Okay. So this H1 now is going to apply the style or the H1 this H1 tag now is going to be applied to this content that is in between the opening and the closing tag. Okay, so let's create a paragraph tag. So let's create a paragraph tag. A paragraph tag is identified with P. That's letter P. Just like if you want to spell a paragraph, it starts from P. So the paragraph tag is identified with letter P. You can say this is a paragraph. Okay, and you will be able to see the difference on the web page. You can see it right here. This is our paragraph. If you will notice that the paragraph tag, the elements or the text, the content rather, is not bold compared with the heading. Okay, you notice that it's not bold compared with the heading. That's one difference between the paragraph and the heading tag. Though it can be styled, but just note that the paragraph tag is not bold right now, but the headings, they are bold. Okay, so these are some of the HTML tags that you use when creating your web page or your website. Okay, so far, is there any question?
This I'm very you need heading up to the body.
Yes.
And then in between the body.
Yeah. Okay. The content you want to display on your web page should the content you want to show on your web browser or the web page should be inside your body tag. Okay. There are also some content that you can add to your head tag. Like for instance, once you have gotten to the styling aspect where you style your web page, you normally add your styles to your head tag. Okay. While the body tags deals with the content you want to display on your web page. Okay. So basically, these are the, I said like, yes, the head tag deals with the content. For instance, if you want to style your HTML elements, those things that are on your web page, you add those styles in your head tag. This is the head tag here. This is the head tag. You add the styles inside the head tag, not that the code for the styles you don't want it to display on the web page. So it's recommended that you add it in the head tag. Okay. But whatever you want to display on the web page, you make sure that it's in between the body tag, which is inside the body tag.
Or the body tag inside. the head tag.
No, the body tag is not inside the head tag. Like if you are creating your HTML documents, this is how you create it. You first of all declare the document type. Okay. After declaring the document type, which is this doc type HTML, okay, the next thing you need to add is your HTML tag. You say HTML. This is the HTML tag. So whatever I want to write now, they are inside the HTML tag. If I should take it downwards, like line 5 now, it's going to be outside the HTML tag. So what we want to do now, it will display on the web page, but it's not recommended that you add content outside to follow the right structure. Okay. So what we want to add now, we want to add it inside our HTML tag. And the first, the head tag. So the content that I'm writing inside this head tag will be here. While the content I want to write outside the head tag will be after the closing of that head tag. So the next one we want to add now is the body. So this is the body tag. This is the opening of the body tag, and this is the closing of the body tag. While this is the opening of the head tag, and this is the closing of the head tag. So the content we want to display on the web page should be written inside the body tag. So let's do that again. Let's say H1. That's our H1. H1. Then the paragraph. So after creating your documents, after editing your documents, you need to save before you be able to preview your change. So you can say it now. This is our heading 1, and this is the paragraph. Okay. So let's go back to. Okay. So for our HTML documents, for every HTML document, if you have visited most websites, you'll notice that most web page does not only consist of text. Sometimes we have other elements there. We have images, videos, and also forms, okay, on our web page. These are different HTML elements, okay, and they have their own tags, just like the way text now. For instance, the heading has this H1 tag. If you want to add an heading to your web page, then your paragraph has this P tag, okay. So also your image have a tag called img, okay. Your image has a tag called img. That's the tag, okay. That's how you add image on the web page. Yes. Yes. Remember, when typing your tag, if you are using some code editor, because there are different code editors, just like what I said, if you want to use your Android phone, some code editors might not auto-complete it for you, but what you have to just understand that if you want to, let's say you want to write a tag now, you have to use this less than and greater than. You know that sign, that angle bracket. You have to use it. Then in between, write the name of the tag. For instance, the image img. That's image tag. And this image tag now, it has the closing. This is the closing of the image tag. You can see the closing right there. This is the closing of the image tag.
But we get kind of different from the rest.
Yes, it's different from the rest. Yes. That's why I said we have the some tags, they are self-close tags. Okay. So image, then followed by the source attributes. This SRC you see here is called source. Okay. What this does that is asking you now for the source of the content you want to display.
And the directory.
Yes, like the directory. Okay. So the source attribute is going to point to where you have your image file. And since we've created a project folder, we have as our project files, we can add our image or our videos. We can add it inside this folder, okay, just to stay organized. So for instance, now let's create another folder here. Let's call that folder img or images. Okay. So in this folder now, you can start adding your image file, the image files you want to use for your project. So let's use
Greetings everyone, please don't be offended. I just joined in recently. And this class I'm not seeing the video, I'm just listening to the audio. Sorry to ask, is it only based on audio class or we have any video presentation? Or is it from my end?
okay, I believe it's from your end. Because currently I'm sharing my screen. So what I would suggest, maybe it might be network issues. So just try to maybe leave and rejoin the class again.
All right.
Yeah. So like I was saying, if you want to add an image to your web page, you use the image tag, which is the img, okay? Then inside your img tag, you need to specify the source of your image, which is the path or the location of that image. So let me create an image right now. Let me just screenshot this. Let's see. Images, and let's call this screenshots. Okay. You can see this is our image right here. The image we created now is inside our images folder. Remember, it's not directly inside this class one folder, but instead it's inside this images folder. Okay. To specify the source of our image, we need to say images. This image is here. This image is here is the image folder that we've created. Okay. So followed by the name of the image, which is screenshot.png. You know, images have different formats. There are some images, they are JPG, okay, while some are PNG.
When you say the name pop-up as
Yes, it's PNG. If you look at it here, you see it here, screenshot.png. That's the format of this image. So if the image is JPG, you just use JPG. Okay, you need to take note of the format of that particular file, that image you want to add. So our image is PNG. So we use PNG and we save. Once you save, you can reload and you can see the image on the web page. You can see the image now is on the web page. Okay. Then also for the image, there's also an attribute here. Remember, this source here is an attribute. Okay. While this ALT is also an attribute. If you look at it, it says this attribute defines an alternate text description of the image. For instance, if you should add an attribute now to describe this image, you say this is a screenshot of class. Okay. So this is the attributes. When you reload the page, you won't be able to see the attributes. Okay. So what this attribute does is that it describes what this image is about. Though the attribute is optional, but if there are some device that is called screen readers, they are being used for, let's say, those disabled people like or the blind people, for instance. And if a device like screen reader is going through your web page, it will be able to read this out that this image here, it's a screenshot of the class. It's going to read this alternate text that you defined here. Or for instance, let's say the link or the path to this image is broken, or you didn't specify the correct path. For instance, now let's say let's alter the image parts and you reload, you see the alternate text that you specified here. You can see it now. This is a screenshot of our class.
But the image is not shown.
Yes, the image is not shown because we didn't specify the part correctly. So, you understand? Which means the link is broken. Okay. So screenshots dot j, okay, png rather. Then you save. So you'll be able to see the image now.
Yeah, I think this is my brother. Right? This not right.
Okay, that's because I zoomed in. Yeah.
They want to create
Yes. Yes.
so that's
Yeah. To create a folder now, call it images. Yes. Then open it. You can add your files now to that folder. That's your image file. Since it's an image file, it means the file should be maybe in your laptop or so. So after there's a picture of this system.
it's okay.
You can just save it. Let's save it to the project. Yeah, it's stuff now it specifies the parts to the image. That's based on the link you gave to this folder. Okay, let me explain that again. So, like if you want to add an image to your web page, for instance, instead of using this folder, I want to create a different folder now. I can create a new folder. I can call that folder img. So it's not compulsory that that folder might just be named as image. It all depends on how you want to describe your folder. Okay. So for instance, I can name that folder img. Then I can add that image there. But let me add a different image so that it's confusing. Oh, sorry for the background noise. You know, we are also having a physical class right now. So let me screenshot the different screenshot. Okay, let's just screenshot PS code. And let's say so I want to save it now inside the IMG folder. Now just say folder editor. Okay. So you can see it inside the code editor. So if I want to display this image, if I want to display it on the web page, let me zoom this. So if I want to display the second image, I'll first of all add our image tag, then followed by the source attribute, SRC. Okay, so for this source attribute now, the image I want to add is inside this folder called IMG. If I close it now, you see it's inside that folder called IMG. So I will now say IMG slash the name of the file. Okay, then I'll close our tab and save. It all depends on the name of this folder.
Sorry, but I noticed something. The first time when you type the IMG,
Yes.
everything is what the sort attribute alternates.
Yes.
For this time around, you have to type it.
Yes, that's because, like I was saying, some editors have auto completion, like they just help you to complete it. But that auto attribute is optional. Like I said, if you look at the page now, it's not displaying on the page. It's mostly used for screen readers to describe what the content that is on that particular page. You understand? So it's optional. You need to look at the file name you have there. So after saving, you have to preview on your browser. Use the Edge browser. Okay, but so this is the image now. So if I should save now, reload, you'll see the second image. If you look at the structure now, this one here says IMG. That's because we added this file or this image inside the IMG folder, while this other image is inside the images folder. So you have to take note of that. Yes. So all our project files and folder, they are inside this main folder, which is our project folder. Okay. So your project can have subfolders. Yes, your project can have subfolders. So one other element that we also have on our web page is called the form and input types. Okay, form and input types. For instance, if you visit some website, especially website that deals with registration, or some website also that have this contact option where you can send message to the owners of that website, what they normally use is they use input elements and also they use forms. Okay, just like the normal form we have, like when you are going to the bank to open an account, they'll give you a form. You can also add such form on your website, okay, whereby people can just go to your website, they fill in their information and they submit it. Okay, so that's another element that we have on our web page. So let's look at the form element. To add the form element to your web page, firstly, let's just look at this input. There's something called input. Input. You can see this input here. It says the type is text. Okay. If we should save this and go back to our web page, let's read. You can see the input element here. This is where you can type. Okay, so your form element now consists of different input types. Okay, consists of different input types. You know, input is something you can use to send information, or let's say something you are typing or you are giving out information. Okay.
It's because of this, because there are some websites now, like you can type your name and because of this image. So
Yes.
then before we use this image, that image was below this person.
Okay.
Was it automatically there next time when it's
Yeah.
I don't know what was it.
That's the sometimes you if you want to arrange content on your page, you use style. But right now the image they are not styles. Okay. Yes. So if I should adjust my screen now, you see that this other element has moved to this part here. Okay. We also talk about that when we are dealing with style. There are some elements, they are block level elements, like they occupy the whole width of the page. If you look at this heading and this paragraph, it's occupying the whole width of the page. While some elements, they are not block level elements. Okay. So we get to that when we are trying to style elements in our web page. So let me comment. One other thing we also need to know is comments. Comments, when you are, for instance, you are writing your code, you can decide to add comments can be used to describe what your comments can be used to describe what your code or what that particular line of code you are writing, what is about, just like to give you an idea. For instance, let's say you want to hand over that code to someone so that the person will be able to read and understand what your code is about. So to add comments, you use the angle brackets. You can see it, the angle bracket followed by an exclamation mark. Okay. Then in between the opening and the closing, this is the opening of the comment and the closing of the comment, you can write what you want to describe. For instance, now let's say I want to add an input element now. So in the comments now, I can just say add input element. Okay, then when I say, if I should refresh the page, you see that this comment is not displayed on the page. Okay, so the comments now is mostly used by the developer to understand the code, or if there are some code you don't want to execute or you don't want displayed on the browser, you can decide to comment that part of code. So what I want to do now, so that we can focus on this form and input types, I want to comment all of this. So I'll just highlight. You can decide to move this, which is the opening. You can take it to the beginning, then the closing at the end. Or if you are using VS Code, you can just highlight everything and comment. Okay, that is the control and slash. But it's the same thing. If you want to type, you can just come here. I want to comment it. Yes, you just do it like this. Then you cut these other parts, come to the ending, and you paste it. That is if you want your comment to comment this particular block of code. So this is the starting and this is the ending. So whatever is inside this beginning and ending will be commented. Yes, it will not display on the page. So let's remove this comment and save. So when I refresh the page, you will see we only have this input element because this other block of code has been commented. Okay. So like I was saying, the input element is mostly used by the user. Yes. It's used by the user to give out information, to submit information. Like I said, when you go to the bank, you'll be given a form to fill. On that form, you see different sections or different elements. For instance, there's a place where you write your name, your surname, your nationality, things like that. Okay, so you use this input element to do something like that. Okay, and like I said, a form consists of different type of input elements. Okay, so this input element here is called the text element because you can type some text in it. Okay, you can type in some text. Okay, so also when you are creating a form, you need to first of all add the form tag. This is how you add the form tag. Form. So this is the opening of the form tag, and this is the closing of the form tag. So whatever element you add to this is going to display in your web page, but it's going to be part of your form. Do you understand? Okay. So if you look at your normal form, that form you fill in the bank, you notice that there are different elements there, or there are different sections, like the first name, last name, your nationality. Okay. So those elements now, they are inside the form. So that's what I'm saying now. If you want to create a form on your page, you need to first of all use the form tag, the opening and the closing form tag. So whichever content now you add here, and on that form, some forms have heading where they will tell you official use or for customer use. You understand? Those are headings. You can also add headings to your form. You understand? Which is text. You can add text to your form to help the user or the person filling that form now to understand how to fill the form. Some forms they will just add something like fill with like instruction now, fill in capital letters, things like that. So you can also add it to your form. Okay. But the major content of a form include different input elements because forms are used to collect information. When you are asked to fill a form, they want to get information about you. Okay. So for instance, you can start by adding, let's say we want to create a form. Okay, you can go ahead with your question. I don't know how to pronounce this name.
I can't see your screen.
Okay, sorry. Please, if you can see my screen, just let me know so I know if it's from my end. Can anyone see my screen?
Yes, I can see your screen.
Okay. So please, man, maybe you can just leave the meeting and rejoin again. It might be network issue.
But I've tried it several times. Okay, it's showing now. Showing now.
Okay. So, like I was saying, the form now is used to collect information about the user. Okay. For instance, on a website, you can have like the contact form where you fill your name, your phone number, and maybe the message you want to send to the owner of the website. So you can have something like a contact form. Or if you want to create more like that banking situation now, whereby you go to the bank, you pick a form to the account opening form. You can also do something like that on a website. So let's create just a simple form right now. We use the input elements, so let's add our inputs. Input elements. So this is the input element. Okay. The input element now has some attributes, just like the way our image tag now has an attribute, like the source attribute and also the auth attribute. The input element also has an attribute. Okay. And the first attribute you need to specify is the type, which is what's the type of input element. Okay, we have different type of input elements. The first one here is let's use text. Okay, let's reload. So this type of since we specify the input type now as text, it means we'll be able to type in some text on that element. Okay, let's create another input element, and let's call this one now. Let's say type, and let's say password. Okay, So let's reload. So this is the second one we created. So if we are typing now, you can see that it's different from this one. That's because we specified the type to be password. Why this here is specified to be text. So if I should change this from text now to password and save, you see that this one here has turned to password, while this one here still password. Okay. So when creating your input elements, you specify the type. You can have text or you can have password. Okay. And also one other attribute you need to know is that if you look at these input elements we've created here now, let's say you are adding this to a website and the user visits your website, the user will likely be confused on what to type here. You understand? Because if you just see a blank input element on a page like this, you'll be confused on what to type on that particular input element. For instance, now let's say we have let's say we have multiple input elements on our page and the user visits the page. Definitely the user will be confused. Oh, should I enter my first name here or should I enter my last name here? The user will be confused. That's why we have something called placeholders. Okay. So placeholders, they are used to give you an idea of what you are to enter on that input elements. Okay. So to add the placeholder attribute inside your input tag or your input element, you add the placeholder, and in that placeholder now, in that placeholder, you can add like a description. You can add a description telling the user what the user should enter on that particular input element. For instance, you can say first name. This will give the user an idea that, okay, on this particular input, I should enter my first name. So let's say, and reload. You can see it here now. This one has first name. So the user will understand, okay, this is where I should enter my first name. The user will just come to this part and type first, or is our first name. You understand? Then on this second one, now we can give this one a different placeholder. And let's say last name. Then when you reload, you can see it here. So if you have such input element on your page, when the user visits your page, the user will be able to understand, okay, this is where I should enter my first name and this is where I should enter my last name. You understand? So also we can have the password. I want to change this one now to the type of password and placeholder. Can say password. And reload. You can see it now. So whenever the user is typing here, you understand that that's the password form or the password element rather. Okay. So basically, this is how you create your form on your web page. Okay, this is how you create your form on your web page. Though there are other input elements like let's say this radio. What this radio does is, for instance, let's say for instance now you want the user to pick a particular option, like either male or female. And also we have this checkbox as well. Checkbox. This is the checkbox. Okay, you can say, okay, let's say the user should pick some categories. For instance, let's say let me look for an example. Checkbox now, for instance, is mostly used if the user needs to select different options. You can just say, let's say you are building a website now for an hotel, okay, and you want to give the user an option to pick different amenities, let's say Wi-Fi, laundry, and other service, okay. You can use this checkbox as an option there so that the user can pick multiple options. Why for these radio options, It means you want to give the user now to be able to pick like one option, as like either gender, male, female. You can use this radio option to do that. Okay. Checkbox as well. You can use the checkbox to do that, but it's not recommended because this checkbox can give the user an option to pick to make multiple choice. Okay. Then after you've created this element on your form, you might be thinking this form now on the page, you won't most form it needs to come with a button because the user will not just fill his or her information, and just leave the page like that. The user need to submit or to send that information to the website owner. Okay, that's when you use the either submit, you can say submit, or let's say button and let's say submit. You can either say submit or depending on what your form is about. Your form now might just be, let's say, like a login form where you want users to be able to log into a particular system. You can use the username and password. So in that aspect, now instead of saying submit, you can do something like login. Okay. You can do something like login. So you just use maybe the username, password, then the user will click on this login and the user will be able to log in to the system. So basically, forms they are essentials on every website. Okay. If you are building a website now, let's say for a company, the company might want to be able to get information from their customers or to get requests from their customers. That's why they need the contact form, whereby customers can go on their website, fill in their information like their name, their email, and let's say the product they want to buy. They will send it to the business owner, and the business owner will be able to get that information. So forms are very important on every website. So I would like to know if there's any question you can ask. If you have any question or any area you are not clear with, you can ask.
I noticed something. I noticed that some tags, like the body tag, it has an obvious closing body tag. Like you see body open, you see body open. Yes. But for some of them, like the input now, it has open but not obvious. So when do we know? I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. Like this form now, the form has an open, even the paragraph has an obvious open tag and a P close tag. But then for the input, it does not have. And when do we know which of them is supposed to be having a, let's say, corresponding close tag?
The way it works, HTML has different elements. If I should break down, there are different elements now. And some elements, like I said earlier, some elements have this kind of self-closing tag. You understand? Like this input you are talking about now, it's more like a self-closing tag. You get, unlike this one where you have to specify body, then you come back again to specify the body here with a forward slash. Okay. Some elements, as you get to create or you get to work with HTML, you get to understand that some elements are self-closed elements. Okay, some elements are self-closed. Why some? You have to create the opening, then you also create the closing. Yes. Just like if you look at this button, the button has an opening here, and also in between we add a text, then followed by the closing. Okay.
For safe practice now, is it possible for us to just stick with this application now, or I don't know the software for coding? Because I remember you mentioned earlier that for some apps, they will not give you the flexibility to pop up.
Okay, this is
Yes, I think it's Visual Studio.
Yeah.
So is it possible that they will not come a time where we have to use something other than this that will help us automatically?
You can actually use a text editor, any text editor, to write your HTML code. You can actually use any text editor. Like, I don't know if you know about Notepad. Yes, Notepad. You can use it to write your HTML. Yes, but VS Code is built for development. You understand? VS Code is built for development, and it has different extensions that will help you to speed or to make your development process faster. You understand? That's why I said VS Code has a kind of auto completion. For instance, now if you are writing the button, let's say you want to say button, you can say it now. So instead of you doing, let's say you are using your notepad to type, you have to type it one at a time. You close it, then you do the closing again. So that's just the difference. You understand? You have to do it. But on VS Code, it gives you that auto completion. Yes, for faster development.
Okay, this HTML is like with JavaScript Python and the rest.
Okay, HTML is different from JavaScript. Yes, it's different from JavaScript. But we'll get to that aspect when we start using.
Programming language.
Yes, JavaScript is a programming language. HTML is sometimes said to be a programming language, okay? But just note that it's a programming language, which means you can use it to create websites, okay? You can use it to create websites. But most times people tend to say HTML is not a programming language, that is just for markup, just to create the structure of your website. Okay. But we'll get to the JavaScript aspect as time goes on. So basically, so far, we've talked about, let me just like do a quick recap of what we've talked about so far. Firstly, we talked about when creating your, or when you want to work on a particular project. Let's say you want to build a website, because we mostly use HTML to build websites, okay? So when you want to build a website for someone, you have to create a folder, okay? You have to create a folder. The reason for creating that folder is for you to stay organized. It's not proper when, let's say you have a folder A, and also you have a different folder where you keep your images or your website file. Or your website file, they are just scattered.
I have one question, please.
Okay, please go ahead.
Okay, sir. Is one is the folder you're talking about? I don't know how to like how to create a folder for image, because I was doing that because this is one of my course because I'm a student. So when building the structure with this VS Code, I don't know like where to like how to create a folder in this VS Code, like so that if I put the image that is the source, it will locate like it's the way you put it here, like just like something like that, so that I'll be able to add the image. It was those alternatives that was just showing the image is not
Yeah.
display.
Okay. So if you want to work on any project, whether it be, let's say you are practicing, what you have to do first is to create a folder. After you've opened your, let me open the new window. After you've opened your VS Code, okay, the first thing you need to do is to go to this file. Can you see the file on my screen? Okay, go to file, then click on this open folder. Okay, click on open folder. On your system now, whether you are using, let's say, whether you are using mobile or your PC, you have to select a particular location where you want to store your website files. Okay, most times we store on desktop, but you can select any location on your storage. Okay, so you can just go to desktop, you can create a new folder. That folder now, since you are, let's say you are doing this for practice, okay, you can create a folder called practice HTML. Okay, so that why I'm saying you create a folder to like this now, practice HTML, is because sometimes you might work on a particular project and you want to create a new project again for practice as well. You can store all your practice projects on a particular folder. Okay, so right now I've created this folder now called practice HTML. I can also come here and say class 1. Okay, so for this HTML practice now, this folder class 1 is going to contain the projects for that first class. Okay, so I'll just click on select folder. So after creating the class 1 folder, I'll just click on select folder, and you see that that folder will be open on our that folder will be open on our VS Code. Let's go back again. Open folder. So I'm going to select this folder. So you can see now this class 1 folder is different from the first folder we created. You know, the first folder we created is also class 1, but this folder here is in a different directory and it's different from this one. So after creating this class 1 folder, you can start organizing your project now on this particular folder. Let's say the project you want to work on will include an image. You can create a folder inside this class 1 folder and call that folder image. Okay. So in this folder now, you can decide to add your image inside this folder, or you can also add your image directly inside this class 1 folder, but it's not recommended because you might have up to 30, 40 images on for your project. And you don't want to mix your HTML file and your image files together. So that's why I normally recommend that you use a folder to store your images. Okay. So let's create our file now, our project file. Let's call this index. HTML. Okay. Then when creating your HTML document, remember you need to specify the document type. You say doc type HTML, then your HTML opening and closing, okay, followed by what? Okay, head. Then followed by the body. Followed by the body. Okay. So if you want to display the image on your web page, what you need to do, you first of all need to add the image to that folder. So let's create an image on that folder. So let's say, and remember the folder we created is practice HTML class 1, and we created this image folder in it to open, and we'll save our image there. So we have our image saved now inside this folder. So when you want to display that image, you use the image tab, which is img. Okay. Then for the source attributes, you have to specify the part of the image. Okay, you have to specify the part of the image, followed by the image extension. Some images might be JPG, some might be PNG. So you have to know the extension of that your image, which is the file format of that your image. So our image we have here is .png. So we say image / screenshot.png. Okay. If you didn't specify the part correctly, the alternate text would be the one displaying on the page. That is if you specify an alternate text. Okay. Then let's say, for instance, now this image is not inside the image folder. We want to have it in the same location as our index.html file. Remember, this index.html file is directly inside this class 1 folder. Okay. Then this image folder is inside the class 1 folder. But we want to save our image now directly inside our class 1 folder. So instead of saying image slash screenshot.png, we'll just say screenshot.png, because this second image now is inside this class 1 folder. It's in the same location as our index file, so we don't need to specify any folder paths. You understand? Okay, let me repeat that again. Okay, the reason for specifying this image here is because our image, which is, let me rename this folder so that you don't get confused. Please, if you are yet to be added to your learning track, okay. So the reason why we are adding this img is because we created a folder called img that has our image in it. If I should go to the main folder in my PC now, desktop, class 1. If you look at the class 1, we have a folder here, and inside that folder, we have this screenshot image in it, okay? But if you look at the main, inside the class 1 folder, we have index.html, and also we have this screenshot. So the screenshot and the index file and our HTML file, they are in the same location. It's not in a separate folder from our index file or our HTML file. That's why on this second one now, we didn't specify any folder path, because the index is seeing the image because they are in the same folder. But this one, we specified a folder name here before the name of our picture, because the image is being stored inside a folder. So is that clear? So if we should preview this image now, let's save and let's preview this our index file. You can see it now. This is the image. This is the first one we have in that folder. Then this is the second one. So that's how you add. That's how you display your images on your web browser. So, Ms. Shibuzo, is that clear?
Yes, I know.
Okay, so you can just check if your image is not displaying. You can just check, maybe instead of PNG, your image format is JPG. You understand? So you have to check to ensure that you are using the correct format of your image before it will display on the web page. Okay, you're welcome. So far, we talked about how we can create our project folder, and also how we can create our files inside our project folder. And also we've talked about our HTML structure. I said when defining your HTML structure, you have to start with the doc type, though it's optional, because if I should remove this now, you see that our web page is still going to display. It's still going to display. You can see it. It's still going to display as it is. So it's optional, but it's recommended that you specify the document type, which is doc type is HTML. Then what you need to do next is to open your HTML tab and the closing tab. And one other thing you also need to note, when using, let's say for instance, you are using Notepad to write your HTML code, you are likely not to see all this indenting. You see a kind of space here. You see the way the text, they are being arranged. You see the way the text, they are being arranged. If you are using your Notepad to type, you notice that the text are likely to arrange like this, in this format, without any indenting. Okay, so with this now, you might be finding it difficult to know if your for instance now, if your image is inside your body, if inside, or rather inside the body tab, okay, you might be finding it difficult to understand which of these elements are inside the other elements. So what you need to do is that after writing your code like this, you can use the tab key, or you can use the space key on your, if you are using your phone, to indent your code so that you'll be able to see which of the elements are inside the other element. So, but on VS Code, once I just save, it will just indent it automatically. So with this now, you'll be able to know that this image is inside the body, you get, because the image is indented. Then if you look at the body, you know that body and head, they are inside our HTML tag. You can see it. This head and body, they are inside this HTML. So for instance, now if I should come here, you see some arrows here. If I should close the body, you see that it's going to close everything that is inside the body. So let's say, for instance, you have up to 100 lines of HTML code here. If you should just close it, you know that it has closed all the elements that are inside the body. If I should close this HTML, you see it now. It has closed the other elements there. So you also need to take note of your indenting. So as, for instance, so that when you are creating your HTML documents, so that you don't make a mistake like this of taking your content outside your body or outside the body tag. Okay, you have to make sure, if you look at it now, you know that the images, they are not inside the body tag, but you have to put them inside the body tag. That's the right way to structure your HTML document. Then we also talk about forms. We talked about headings, okay? And if you want to declare an heading, or if you want to add an heading to your document, use the H1, okay? Use the different heading. You have H1, H2, and so on. And also the paragraph, use the P for your paragraph. And so this is a paragraph, while this is heading 1. Okay, you can also have heading 2 as well. Heading 2. Okay, so let's check. You can see it here now. We have the heading 1, heading 2, and the paragraph. So you have to take note of that. So we also talked about forms, okay? And I said forms are used to give out information, okay? For instance, like the contact form we talked about, or that account opening form, you can use it, you can add something like that on your website. So to add a form on your website, use the form tag, FORM, form tag, and you specify the opening and the closing. This is the opening of the form tag, and this is the closing of the form tag. Okay, so in our form tag, we have different inputs. These inputs, for instance, we have the text inputs, we have the password inputs. Okay, inputs, the type text, and the password inputs. Okay, and you know the difference between the password and the text. Like I said, the text, when you are typing on the text inputs, it displays what you are typing. But if you are typing on the password, it covers what you are typing. Okay. Then also we have the button to submit. From submit, you can say submit or register, or even login. Depends on what you are using this form to achieve. You can see it. So you can use either submit, register, or login. Then on our form, we also talked about placeholders. I said placeholders, they are used to give an information or an idea of what the user is expected to fill in on that particular input element. So to specify the placeholder attribute, you just need to add this keyword there called placeholder. You add the placeholder followed by what you want to be added on that input. For instance, this is a password. This input is used to receive password from the user. So you can just specify here, say enter your password. Okay. Then on this first one here, you can say placeholder, enter your email or your username or email. That is if you are building, let's say, a login form. So let's save and preview. So you can see it now. So whenever the user visits a page like this, the user will get an idea, okay, this is for username. Just type in their username. Then this is for password, and they will type in their password. And this is the login button. When they click on the login button, they'll be able to log in. But now it's not functional because we are just starting out with HTML. Okay. So let me know if you have any question. Okay, yeah, you can go ahead with your question.
Okay, the question I wanted to ask, the heading, when you are using the heading, the H1, H2, H3, you put it under the body. So if that's the actual position, then what's the use of the head?
Okay, yeah, the head, they are used to add other elements to our web page. Those elements or those things we don't want to be displayed on the web page. For instance, if you are building a website, at some point you need to add styles to your page, okay? And you don't want that styles to be displayed on the web page. Like you don't want the user to see the codes of that style. So you add them to the head, okay? You add them to the head. So is that clear?
Okay, maybe when we get there.
Okay, okay. For now, just note that whatever you want to display on the web page should be added in the body tab. Whatever
Okay.
you on the web page, you add it to the body tab. Okay. Someone is saying that how do we make user inputs and email address and not just okay? If you want to make user input and email address, you know, emails are also like text. Okay, emails are also like text because on your email address now, you might have numbers, you might have alphabet as well. So you can either use the text or you can just specify the type to email. Okay, you can either use text or you just specify the type to email. But if you are building, let's say you want to add email, okay, you can just specify it as the type. You set the type as email. So is that clear? Hello, Mr. Okay, yeah. So that's how you specify. And someone says, how do we add placeholders on? Okay, how do we add placeholders for radios and checkbox? Okay, they are on your forms. There are other elements that you can add to your forms. For instance, now you can have labels. Okay, you can have labels on your form. So you can attach that label or you can assign that label to that particular radio button or radio element, the same as checkbox as well. You can also add it, a label, so that when a user click on a particular label that is attached to a particular radio button, it gets it gives that option. For instance, let me do something like what is it? Let's see. Label. Oh, let's just say radio button. Then we can also create another one. Yeah. So let's let me remove this other contents. So you can see it now. We have a text attached to our radio button, but though right now we can select both of them at the same time. But if you want to make an option whereby a user can only select a particular male or female, male and female, either male, can attach a label to match with the form. That's where these 4 attributes comes in. That's where these 4 attributes come in. So you can just specify here. For instance, on this input element, set a name, and let's call this name male, and let's call this one or rather let's call this one what will we call this one now? Let's see, male. Let's call this gender instead. Gender. Then this. Let's see. Yeah, so you can see it now. So right now you can select only one option. The user now cannot select both of them at the same time because we've attached that label to it. That's Mr. Miracle. Okay, that's good. So on your dashboard currently, there's no there, but what I would suggest you do is that you practice what you have learned today. We have learned about the structure of an HTML document, okay? So I would suggest you just try to practice what you've learned today and also try to play around with the different input elements and try to create like a customized form, okay? Because we also talked about form. You can just try to create a customized form. Let's say, for instance, you have a business and your customers they normally reach out to you, let's say to request for a particular product. You can just create a form where your customers can enter their name, their email, their phone number, and maybe a message. You can just create a form like that just to so that you have an idea of how to use these different form elements. Okay. When you said the last class, the last part, which of the part are you talking about? Is it the radio button? You can unmute your mic. Okay, no problem. So this is the radio button. I said if you want, let me comment this. Where's the label? Okay, let me just.
How do you do so quickly?
Okay, that's the comment. Like the radio button, just control and slash to comment. If you want to add a radio button on your website, mostly radio buttons are being added whereby you don't want the users to be able to select multiple options. Unlike the checkbox, with checkbox you can select multiple options. Okay, but for radio button now, you want the user to be able to pick just one option. So what you need to do, for instance, if I should remove these 4 attributes out of it, you see I'll be able to pick all the options that are available there. So let me reload. And you see I'll be able to pick. Let's see. It's okay. Let me remove this name as well. But you should be able to pick just one option if you add that 4 attributes. But if I don't have it there, I'll be able to pick both of them. Okay, that's with the label. The label helps to add description to our radio button. Okay, but if you want the user to be able to just pick just one out of the option there, you need to add that 4 attributes. Okay, you need to add the 4 attributes. For instance, this is where's our label? Okay, this is our label. The label is the mail. Okay, why that happened just now is because we added that 4 attribute to mail so that whenever the user clicks on this label called mail, it will also check this radio button. So we can just come here and say for, let's say, gender. So this label now is being linked to the gender radio button, and we're also giving this both gender inputs. We are giving them male, or rather, we are giving them that gender attribute name as gender. Okay, then here also name as gender. Then this label, we are linking it. So this gender now is not knowing that if I should create a different, let me create another input here then, and let's call this radio. Let's add a label, and let's call this label, what will I call this now? Second. Okay, so let me reload. On that last label now, I didn't specify any 4 attributes. Okay, you can see that I didn't specify any 4 attributes. The same as the input, I didn't specify any name attribute. I didn't attach it. So let's see. Load. You can see we'll be able to select 2. But on this this male and female, because we specify the 4 and name attributes, we'll just be only able to select 1. That's because we specified the 4 and name attributes. So this label now is for female, which is this second radio button. While this first one here is for the male. Then this other one here is for the second radio button. Let me use this tag. So that we can see it clearly.
Binaries and hexadecimal IP address in subnetting virtual mp4. Then also you will another set of network identity. Then you do that networking password.
Let me take this one. So you can see it now on this last radio button. I didn't specify any attributes. I didn't specify any attribute there. I only specified the type in the input. Okay, so it means this radio button now is not linked to this other gender radio button. That's why you can see that I can be able to select both at the same time. But for these two gender buttons here, I will only be able to select just one. That's because I specified the name attribute and also the for attribute, which is for this label. For instance, if I should remove the label, let's say I don't want to add a label, which in most cases, you always add a label to it in order to describe what that is about. If I should just leave only the button, you see that I will only be able to select just one. You understand? I will only be able to select just one. But for this, I didn't specify any name attribute. So I will be able to select multiple if I have different inputs there. For instance, let's say let's call this third. You see now that on this other one, I'll be able to select both of them. But on this first one here, I can only select just one. That's because I specified this name attribute. But if you are creating a radio button, you most times need a text attached to it. Okay, you most times need a text attached to it. So it is recommended that you need to add a text attached to every radio button so that it can be descriptive. Because if you just have this radio button on the web page without any text, the user won't be able to understand what this radio button is about. So to add a text, you can use a label to add a text to your radio button, just like what we've done here. So is that clear? Let me know if it's clear. Okay, good. So you said what's the difference between the B arrow and the P tag? Though we've not talked about the we've not talked about the B arrow tag. The B arrow tag is a break tag. Okay.
Did you come back?
No. Okay. The B arrow tag. Yes, I added it. The B arrow tag is called a break tag. Okay. The B arrow tag is called a break tag. Why I added it is because I want to break this element so that it will appear on a new line. That's why I added it. So the B arrow tag helps you to break your elements. Okay. Then why the P? P is just a paragraph and is used to add text to your page. Just like when you are writing, you write in paragraphs. So P is a paragraph. Then the B arrow is a break tag. It's used to add a break on your elements or on your page. So is that clear? Okay, that's good.
So now, if you want to lock your radio to prevent multiple checks in the four attributes,
Yes, that's if you add, because mostly you need to add a label to your radio element or your radio tag. Okay, because if you didn't add any label to it, it won't be descriptive.
Yeah.
You understand? So you need to add a label. But the main thing is, if you want your radio button to have just one option, like one choice, even if you have up to three, the user will be able to just pick one. You need to add these name attributes to it. And make sure that the name attribute for all the radio button you want to group, they have the same name. Yes, you need to have the same name. The 4 is mostly used for your label. To, as in, it points that label now, that this label is reference to this particular element. You understand? So you can give it a different name now. For instance, you can say this label is for the male, then this label is for the female. You can do something like that as well. You get. So basically, this is how you create your forms. So what I would suggest is let me go to the course outline. You say? Yes.
It's that you just need to this started. It's only this that you just really teach.
Okay. One other thing we also need to look at is called this accessibility and semantics. Okay. What this does is that when you are writing your HTML, you have to use these semantic elements or semantic tags. Okay. That's because your page need to be properly structured. For instance, if you are creating, let's say, a card, I would have loved to use a physical example to explain this. Or let's use a normal website to explain this. This header here, just like we will have different HTML elements, we also have the header, footer, section, main, and some other elements. Okay, so these are mainly used for semantics. For instance, just like we will have this form here, we can also have the header. This header is different from this head that we had to the HTML document here. This header is just to structure your web page in sections. Okay. For instance, now on our web page, remember I said this head here. If the things you don't want to display on your website, they are mostly put on this head tag, like your CSS, your styles. They are mostly placed on this head tag. So for this header now, for instance, like your nav menu, something like that, you can add it to your header, okay? Or you can use the nav tag as well. There's also nav tag, like NAV, okay? So these are used for semantics. They are more like you organizing your code in the right structure. Then also footer. There's something called footer as well. If you look at most web page, you see that section at the bottom. You see that last section, maybe that part where they write the copyright, maybe the copyright of the person that designed the website, or that bottom part of a website where you find the business logo and maybe some other text or links on the website. That footer aspect, you can use this tag or this HTML element to wrap that particular section. It's more like you structuring your page so that it can be readable and also just to arrange your page in the right order. For instance, now, a card, let's say you are creating a website now, and let's say you have a card. Let me just look for an example here. I want to explain something. Card. Okay. The document, you are supposed to have a course outline on your dashboard. You're supposed to have something like that on your dashboard. So hopefully, yes, I will share the document with you guys so that you can also follow up with the course outline. Yes, I'll share that. Let's see products. Let's see products.
deadline of property, you will this case on case for the day to leave or work deadline process, or you will leave to take
From after
life
as
and
with
profit
information. Okay, we will get to that as well. That's actually not part of HTML. The action of submitting a form is not part of HTML. It's when you get to JavaScript, you understand how you can submit a form. Okay. Yes. Yes. If you want to create a fully functional website, you need to create your HTML, CSS, and also you need to add JavaScript to it. Yes. So with just HTML, you can't actually submit your form. Okay, you need JavaScript. So what was I saying? Okay, the semantic tags. The semantic tags, like just like we have sections on our web page. When you visit a website, you will notice that maybe at the top you see that navigational section where you have the logo, then some menus. Okay, that's a particular section. You can use that nav tag to wrap that particular section. Okay, then also maybe after that you will now find the hero section, that section where you have maybe like a slider where you see some images and some text. Okay, that's an hero section. You can add a section tag for that particular area. Then maybe after that you see some information about the company, maybe the some of the company staff, or maybe the CEO, and maybe some text around that image. Okay, you can use this section tag to wrap that particular section. So this semantic element or semantic tags, they are basically used to structure our web page. They are basically used to structure our web page so that the content are being placed in an order whereby it also makes it readable. Okay, like whenever you see the nav tag, mostly you find maybe links of let's say the menu links, you find them in that nav tag where you have this nav, which is for navigation, to navigate the website. Okay, then this header is used to specify the head of a particular content or a particular section. So like what I was even trying to use as an example, a card can have a header and a footer. Okay, maybe on that card now, maybe the header might just contain the product image, then maybe the footer might contain, let's say, the description of the product. Okay, so things like that. So these semantic tags, they are basically used to structure our web page. Okay, but we'll talk more on that when we are building different types of website layouts. That's when we talk about this header and footer. So I just wanted to have an idea of what these tags, what they do normally on our web page. So like I was saying, currently I really don't know, but I believe on your dashboard there might not be any materials there. So what I would suggest you do, I will send this outline to the group so that you can just go through it. Just go through it and you understand what we talked about today and try to practice each of these things we talked about. We talked about firstly the installation and the setup. We also talked about some basics of HTML and the structure of HTML documents. Okay, we talked about different HTML elements. We talked about the text, the heading, we talked about the paragraph, and also we talked about the input elements and the forms. Okay, so just try to recreate what we've done today. Try to make like a custom design based on what you've learned today. Okay. So, is there any other question? So let's say if you face any challenge while working on it, you can just write in the group. Okay, you can go ahead.
The question I wanted to ask is not related to the topic you are teaching, but actually related to the course as a whole. So it's this issue concerning vibe coding and stuff like that, as in, so a lot of fears are coming up that we as developers, that AI will soon take over our jobs. So I don't know, what's your advice for us, or what's your recommendation, so that I hope you understand what I'm trying to say.
Yes, I understand. Okay, the thing about vibe coding is that fine, there are different types of AI now. In fact, like almost every day, they are launching different AI products. So what I would suggest is that as time goes on, don't just see that AI there as let's say something that is going to take your job. Okay, you understand? As time goes on, as you get to understand how to work with codes, you can also use AI to debug your code. Okay, which means you can use AI to even quicken your development process. For instance, some let's say you want to create a form and you don't feel like typing everything. Fine, you know how to create a form, but you just want to make everything faster. You can just use AI to do something like that to make the whole process faster. You understand? So vibe coding is you just basically using AI to write codes. But I will still tell you that if you really don't understand the code, what the code does is you can't actually use that code. So I would suggest as you are learning, as you are gaining some understanding about how to write your HTML code or your JavaScript code, you can use AI as a support to quicken your process. You understand? So you don't have to be scared that AI is going to take your job, but just know that AI can make things more faster for you, can make your job easier. So that's one thing you should also have in mind. So is that clear?
All right, no problem. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
This course now, I think this is in our website, right?
Yes.
I was supposing website about focus on other like how development.
Software. No, okay, just one second.
We are going to focus on we're going to development and the rest.
No, this course is majorly focused on software development. Yeah.
That's website.
Yes, I will send the curriculum, the course curriculum, so that you can just go through it and see what we are going to cover. Yes.
How to follow front end and back end.
Yeah.
We are going to do it.
Yes. So basically, that will be all for today's class. And if you have any questions, maybe later on, or you face any challenge, you can just post them in the group, and I'll make sure to answer or to respond to every question being posted in the group. All right, thank you very much for your time, and have a great day. All right.